Rowan Williams, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, in one of his lectures, he says that in order to understand the very depth of Christianity, we need to reflect on one of the great sayings of theology. That is, God and the world do not fight for the same space. Now, what does that mean? On the face of it, we may not necessarily understand the very complex and the deeper reflection that is found in that saying. God and the world does not fight for the same space. What it means is that we as human beings, we always tend to think of God as someone who is out there, not with us. He is in the skies and we are on earth. God is there and we are here. My dear friends, when you really think in terms of the history of salvation, the unraveling of God's presence in the world, one of the key points that you find in the history of the people of Israel was God of Israel was God of history. God lived among his people. The God of Israel was not someone who is disconnected. God of Israel was not someone who was out there in space, but he was with his people and God was among them. That is why the very presence of God was so much lived out and made to be known by the story of the tent of meeting. The tent of meeting was in the Old Testament the symbol of God's presence among the people of Israel, to tell them that God is with them, among them, and living with them and being with them. That's the God of Israel. Now, when you come to the New Testament, of course, once again, we do know in the summary of it that temple in Jerusalem was the summit and the very important point of their worship, their religious structure and their political structure. All that together was lived out or present in the temple in Jerusalem. But when you really think in terms of the presence of God in the temple, which was the olden tradition and the concept of Judaism, Jesus brings it into a higher level. Now, in order to understand the temple in Jerusalem, we also have to refer to the story of John the Baptist, because John the Baptist was the forerunner for the arrival of the Messiah. He came from the priestly family. In fact, his father belonged to the tradition of priests in the temple. But John the Baptist was not living inside the temple. He did not believe in the priestly tradition at this time. And he was giving baptism, which is a liturgical act, but it was not done in the temple. He brought it away from the temple to be among the people. So John the Baptist gives us an idea of the presence of God, not necessarily in the physical building of the temple, but being among the people. Now, in the life of Jesus, the cleansing of the temple in Jerusalem is one of the major events that brought him his own death. We do know when you go inside a traditionally accepted and conservatively protected liturgical place of worship, when you go and destroy that, when you go and undo the things that are there, then you become a natural target of anger and also frustration among those who have found solace, those who have found their identity, those who have found their own living ways inside the temple are going to be angry with you. That is exactly what happened to Jesus, because the cleansing of the temple, driving out the traders, driving out the businesses that was inside the temple was the very reason for his own death in a few days' time. My dear friends, now, what Jesus says in the entire experience of the cleansing of the temple is that he was going to build this temple in 3 days. Because you can see in the life of John the Baptist and in the life of Jesus, the entire traditional concept of the presence of God in the temple, in the tent of meeting, and then in the temple in Jerusalem was taken to a higher level. God is not in the physical building, but he is within us. As long as we have been created in the image and likeness of God, the more you respect and the more you become conscious of the presence of the sacredness within you, you become a carrier of the divine nature as an individual out there in the world, within yourself, and also for all those who do not even know who God is. So therefore, we can see that the cleansing of the temple indicates to us the very essence of Christianity. That is, God who is not looking for a place in the world, because God is part and parcel of the world which God himself is sustaining through his creative energy. So therefore, my dear friends, the foundation of Christian faith is that we have been created in the image and likeness of God, and it goes without saying, God is to be found, God is to be taken care of, God is to be worshipped by being conscious of the presence of sacredness within ourselves. Today, my dear friends, we live in a world where, as we know, as it has happened in our country 2 years ago, an entire genocide took place inside the physical building of a temple. By whom? In the first place, it was supposed to be carried out by religious fanatics. Why? Because they believe in a God not among people, but above in the heavens. So in order to go to heaven, you would destroy a physical building of a temple, killing human beings like animals. Why? Because your God is not among your people, not within them. Your God is above you. And also when you refer to the Easter Sunday massacre, now it is coming out there was a political hand behind the Easter Sunday genocide. Why? Again, the politicians who are looking for power, greedy for grabbing power, but doing such heinous crimes. Why? Because though they may be calling themselves so-called religious men and women, though they may belong to a religion, going to a temple, offering flowers, taking part in the liturgies or whatever, that they do not see anything sacred in the human beings that were there in that churches, in those hotels or whatever on Easter Sunday. My dear friends, let us remind ourselves that Christianity foundationally is a religion because of the revelation of God in Jesus, reminding us, if you do not find God within yourself, if you do not find God in the human persons that you are with, you will never find him, because you will only have an illusion of God, not the real person or the presence of God within ourselves. That's the key meaning of the cleansing of the temple. When Jesus says, you're worried about this temple which is built in bricks and stones, but you do not see the temple that is within yourself. In Jesus was God fully revealed. In you and myself is God's presence revealed every day. Do we cleanse our inner selves during the season of Lent? That's the question that should challenge us in our journey of Lent. Amen.